Kip, what's up, man? Great to see you. I know we had a long weekend together, but it's always good to see you, even though I spent the last 72 hours or so with you.
Yeah, it's a little weird to hop on the podcast when literally I did see you just yesterday. So,
Yeah,
um,
well, I was gonna say we should have done it when we were in person, but man, we were so busy with what was going on with the event and everything. It's like it wasn't possible to do
yeah,
that.
yeah, you have a talent in making these events feel like they're like a month. I
Did
remember
it
the
feel
first time.
long or what?
No, it's just there's so much happening that when you
Got it.
walk away, you're like, whoa, man, like we've only been here for 3 days. It's like, no,
Yeah,
I thought we were here for like 2 weeks.
right,
So
right.
action packed, lot going on. Um, intentional, right?
Yeah,
So
no, I think the
it
men
was
and
a
the
great event.
sons had a great time, so it's really cool. Hey, I did want to
Yeah.
mention really quickly, the Iron Council is open for this week only, and then we close it out. So if look, I've had a lot of conversations over the past several months with guys who might be struggling with addiction or relationship issues or business issues or depression, so many different things, and obviously just having other men in your corner who get it, right? Who have been through what you're going through, who have come out the other side, who have empathy and even compassion for what you're going through, but can share it in a masculine way, which you probably really won't get anywhere else unless you cultivate that. Uh, it's so crucial to have guys in your corner, and that's what we find through our events. That's what we find in the Iron Council. I mean, the guys that are banding together, talking with each other, connecting face to face, doing challenging things. They've got assignments that keep them on track for focused learning and growth. It's an incredible thing. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, but I'm a big
Yeah.
recipient of what we do there too.
Yeah. And we even have this conversation internally in the Iron Council. What we're doing there should never be in conflict with what's important in your life. So if you're dealing with something in particular, make that the focus and use the framework of the Iron Council, the battle plans, and the battle teams to support the stuff that you're dealing with or what you're about. This should never be in conflict. We're all about focusing on what's most important. And that sometimes it requires pivoting. Guys may start a quarter kind of focused one way and life shifts on them and they need to pivot appropriately so they can be addressing the top issues. So it should never be
Yeah.
in conflict.
Yeah. Not in conflict, but it's complementary to what it's just going to help you be better in other facets of your life. So you want to get your fitness locked in? Great. Join the fitness channel and nutrition channel and you get all that locked in. You want to dial in your relationship? Great. Relationship channels, communication channels, so many different things we're talking about in there. So check it out. Orderofman.com/iron council. Orderofman.com/iron council. Just a couple more days.
Yep. And to be very clear, you said it'll close. So that's for the rest of the year.
Right.
So it's going to be open for this week and then close for the rest of the year and won't open back up until right before the new year. So
That's
just
right.
kind of keep that in mind.
Yep. That's
Okay.
right. Cool.
Excellent. So we're going
All
to
right.
field questions from the Foundry, really from the Iron Council. So we have a handful of questions and we'll go ahead and dive into those. Anything else, sir, before we get into
Yeah,
those
let me
questions?
just explain what the Foundry is because we've said that before.
Yeah,
Guys might not
I
know.
keep mentioning it. Yeah.
It's cool. You're all familiar with the Facebook group and Facebook groups in general. The problem with Facebook, let me start with the positives. The positive Facebook group is that you can have a focused discussion around a topic like being better men or fitness or shooting or whatever your thing is. The problem is kind of like the wild, wild west. And you have some really good advice and you have some really crappy advice. You have some guys with good intentions. You have some guys probably with bad intentions, or at least not qualified to give feedback or offer feedback. Some real jerks happen to be in groups. Like it just happens because it's an open public forum. So it just happens. The Foundry is similar to social media platforms in that we can have those focused discussions. We have a timeline that people, or a feed, whatever you want to call it, that you can go in and curate to a degree, talk about what topics are interesting to you, join different channels, join a battle team. The difference is everybody has a vested interest in being there. And primarily they're paying to be there. So it's not the wild, wild west. It's men who've actually paid to invest in themselves and to invest in other people. So that little barrier alone significantly increases the quality of the conversations that we're having. Plus, there's frameworks that we teach, like asking better questions, using the plans and the tools and the systems that we have in place that allow for deeper, more meaningful conversation rather than just this nonsense that we see so often spouted on Facebook and other social media platforms. So the Foundry is, in a way, a social media platform, but it's a closed platform only available to members of our Iron Council.
Perfect. John Danick, what are your thoughts on the current FBI raids on conservative and Christian men?
I don't look, I don't know. I mean, I hear that in the news, and I see articles about it. And obviously, well, here's what I'll say. I just don't know enough about it. I don't know if there's legitimate reasons. I know that faith in government institutions, including our law enforcement institutions, are at an all-time low. And I think there's some very legitimate reasons for that. I had a visit from the FBI myself, and they didn't raid my place. There was nothing to raid us about, but the fact that they came and knocked on my door says something about what's going on, considering we've never done anything illegal or questionable. So I don't know what's happening. I mean, I think I know what's happening, but I'm just not qualified enough to give that advice. But if the FBI is in fact targeting Christian conservative organizations and groups, yeah, that's highly problematic, to put it mildly. So let's make sure that we get to the polling place, or not the voting booths, and vote and run for office and get involved in your communities so that we can start making some of these changes that need to be made. But I don't know enough about the specific conversations or topics or instances you're talking about to be intelligent enough to give you an informed answer on that one.
Dustin Mayberry, how do you know when you should leave a steady paycheck for your own business? I am a trade show designer for a Fortune 500 company. I recently had a friend ask me to design a booth for them, which is opening a few other doors to start my own business, including another company's PR department asking to be a design and build their booth. In your opinion, do I fully jump into an independent trade show design and event market business before income can replace my current job? Or do I wait until there are enough hours in the day to do both and everything else in my battle plan before leaving the current career?
Well, there's never going to be enough hours in the day to do both. So if you're just, what are you waiting for? Some time where now there's 27 hours in the day instead of 24? Like that's not going to happen. So, and to say, well, I'm busy right now. It's a busy season, so it'll get easier in 2 months. That's not true either. It's just
usually never happens that way.
Not even usually. It just never happens. Like something else is going to fill that time. So let's not wait. Let's be smart about this. Now, here's what I would say. From a logical perspective, you could very easily make the case that you either need to have the income that would replace your current income. If that's happening, good to go. Or if there's a discrepancy, let's say you're making $10,000 a month right now, and through the business, you're only making $5,000, you have a $5,000 discrepancy. If you have $60,000 saved aside in a bank, that's going to give you 12 months to grow and replace that income. That's a very logical way to look at that. And that's a very feasible possibility. The thing that we don't really consider is when you do spend more time on the business, that time frame will speed up. Right. So if you're half and half, or let's say you're doing 80% with your work right now and 20% with your side business, and you think it's going to take 12 months. Well, if you go to 50-50, it might only take you 8 months because you're spending more time in that new business. So take that into consideration. That's personally what I would do. I would burn the candle at both ends, not waiting for time to open up miraculously, but carve out time in the morning, lunch breaks, be more efficient with your time at work, after work, like do all of the things that you need to do for the other business now while you have this income coming in, and give yourself a deadline. Hey, by December, I'm going to be making $7,000 a month in this side business, or I'm going to actually transfer over in December. But give yourself a timeline and then start working backwards into what you need to do today. But I would say burn the candle at both ends, go through a season of just busting your butt so that you can make this happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah. There's some beauty in testing out the market and even seeing if clients are willing to wait. That's the other thing, especially when you're an independent contractor. There's always this balance of like, I'm busy. Oh, I'm not busy. I'm poor. Oh, I'm busy. I'm rich. Oh, wait, I'm not busy. I'm poor again. Well, will the clients be willing to get backlogged and wait for you to be available next month? Is there enough work for consistency? And you can actually test out consistency without going full time, just by seeing if there's enough clients in the backlog that you can have sitting there waiting for the next time that you're available. If everything has to happen immediately when the client asks and you can't, and they're not willing to wait, there's some learning opportunities there for you to determine what you can do and what you can't do for consistency of cash flow as well. And I don't know what the numbers are, if it needs to be consistent or not, but those are kind of some of the things that you can try out in the market and in your business model to see how this is going to look. Because what I hear right now is I have 2 projects for 2 clients. Well, how long is that going to take? 2 weeks? Then what? Nothing? Oh, well, maybe you're not ready yet. Right? Like maybe you need to play with marketing and see if you can get some backlog and some consistency of work, even if it's part-time.
Right. Yep. Cool. All right. What's next?
All right. Joshua Horsley, Ryan, in chapter 8 of Sovereignty, Intentionality, you wrote something that I found to be pretty profound, which is good job.
Odd. That's why it sticks out so much, is that it's like I actually said something profound.
No, that book is great. Okay, you get to keep what you defend. This was referring to the excuses we make to rationalize limiting our choices and remaining stuck in our current situation. Like you mentioned in the chapter, this is due to living in a box constructed of our previous experiences. What would be some tactics we could use to expand or move beyond this box if the current situation that we find ourselves in, while not ideal, but has put in better position than anything we have yet to experience?
I'm a little lost on the question. Mate, can you paraphrase that, Kip?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get obviously the concept of you keep what you defend. For example, if you're defending some sort of behavior, whether that's blaming people at work or excessive drinking or you're even being depressed is one I hear a lot. Like a lot of guys are so depressed and like, well, I'm depressed because of this, and I'm depressed because of that. My childhood was rough and this. And I'm like, okay, all of that might be true, but you're defending your depression. You're defending it. So you get to keep it because you're fighting so hard for it. What if instead, and then I'll get to what you think this means, is instead of being depressed about it and all the things that it could be, it's like, okay, I'm going to own that. I don't want to be depressed. Personally, I don't want to feel like that. So what do I need to do? Well, I need to change behavior because there might be certain behavior that's making me feel that way. I need to surround myself with different people because there's different people who might be making me feel that way and might be helping me defend some of that depression. I need to talk. That's something I need to do. There's attachment styles. So I have an anxious attachment style. So for me, I get very anxious and I even get anxiety if I don't work through my issues with other people so I can flesh it out and get out of my head. Okay, so that means I need good people in my corner that I can talk with that support me, love me, and care about me. And as I do that, I immediately feel better. So yeah, there might be a lot of reasons for being depressed or anxious or whatever it might be. And you can cling on to those if you want, or you can say, no, I don't want that. And I'm going to change the behavior. A lot of people do it with nutrition and they say things and we laugh at it. Well, I'm just big boned, or, oh, it's just my genetics. Okay, then keep it. Then keep your poor health. That's fine. That's your decision. Or you could say, oh no, my genetics is an issue. So I have to do things differently than other people.
Yeah, totally. I think what Josh is really saying, and Josh, let us know how I do on this. So really, right, we rationalize and we're in this box. And what he's saying is tactics on getting out of that box, when in reality, the box has been helping us, right? Like the box has served us. And maybe it's not ideal, but it's working, right?
The box serves you, and because if it didn't serve
Always
you, you
does.
wouldn't
Otherwise,
be
you
in the
wouldn't be in the
box.
box. Yeah, totally.
So let's take depression, because a lot of you guys are dealing with it. Okay, so if you're depressed, how does that serve you? Like objectively, how does that serve you? Well, you know it doesn't, but subjectively, you might be getting some attention.
Yeah.
You might be blaming other people or other situations and not taking ownership, and that is serving you because you don't have to own your own inadequacies. Like something is happening. So the first thing to do is to acknowledge and recognize that there is a box around you and that you constructed it. Like nobody put it around you. You constructed it, which is really hard in the moment, guys, because we see this box around us and we think I can't get out of it. But what we don't realize, it's like cardboard walls. They look like concrete walls, but they're just cardboard walls. It's that old that meme or whatever where they put a they take a young elephant and they stake it in the ground, and as the elephant gets big and it can't pull itself out of the stake because it's too small, and as the elephant gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it could easily pull that stake out of the ground and go wherever it wants, but it doesn't because it's been conditioned to believe that that stake is going to keep them exactly where they are.
Yeah. A limiting belief. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a limiting belief. And so how do you get out of it? You start looking outside of the box, and it might just be peeking your head up over the walls and saying, what's going on over there? Like what's
Yeah.
Kip doing? Hey, that guy over there looks fulfilled. Like he looks like he's good in his family life, or he looks fit, or he looks fulfilled, or he's running a business. Like, what's up with that guy? And just take a peek over the wall. And maybe the next day you can start building a ladder. You're like, okay, well, let me build a ladder. Maybe I can't tear the wall down, but I could just go outside for a little bit and walk over this wall and see what's there. And what might the ladder look like? Going to a conference, reaching out to a friend, purchasing a course on something you're interested in, getting up and getting moving for the day, changing and disrupting the patterns of what you currently live in. That's building the ladder. That's going to get you over the wall. And before you realize it, like you're just not going to come back. You know, maybe you go over the wall for a little bit and you feel really good and you're like, but I'm kind of uncomfortable. And so you go back in the box. And then the next day you're like, oh, yeah, I want to get out. So you go, what happens is you stay out longer and longer and longer and longer, and you never come back. But it takes time doing things that are different than what you currently are doing. You have to disrupt the patterns.
Totally. If we took a box and we said, that's your story, what's really interesting is we are great at winning. You're doing exactly like you're doing awesome with whatever box you've created. Man, you're awesome at it, right? If you are a victim, man, you are awesome victim. You're so good at blaming other individuals. You have the stories to back it, the evidence. You've colluded with everybody in their life. You have alignment. I mean, we are great at what we create. I think the big question then is, well, what's the tactic, or why would I want to get out of the box? Well, what's possible then? What's so much greater than what you have today? And is it worth it? And if it's worth it, then take the action. I mean, we're all winning in what we've created. We're really good at it. So the question is, do you want more?
I think you have to start getting honest with your current situation too. Because sometimes when we're in that box, it just feels like, well, this is all there is, right? This is it. This is life. Yeah. This is my life.
Yeah.
And it is today.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be tomorrow. You just have to do something different. And that's hard, man. That's really hard because you're going to have to let go of some things that you like. Like you like playing the victim. You like the pity party. Totally. You like the steady paycheck. There's one. Going off of our last question, you like the steady paycheck. So why would you leave that for the unsteady paycheck? I don't know.
Potential unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why you would. You have to determine that for yourself. I mean, the cool thing about the box is always there. So you can always come back if you want.
Totally.
You can always come back. It'll be there.
I had this exercise once, and we talked about it actually over this weekend. I shared something with you that it's interesting. We have these sob stories. We all have them. You can grab your piece of paper and write all the stories that you tell people every so often. It's what you've used to identify yourself. It might prop you up a little bit and might get people to feel sorry for you. And one of the stories I shared with you over the weekend is like, and I literally have held on to this for 20 years. That poor Kip, I was raised on this, by these two parents that didn't see the value of education. I wanted to achieve greatness. Like part of this story, how's this? Are you ready? I'm two of 9 kids that actually graduated high school. So that's a story. Hold on to that, right? You hear that, Ryan, you're like, oh man, good job, Kip, for rising above, man. Geez, he's so impressive. And then I can go, oh, and I'm the only one that graduated from college. Oh, see, I get some more, like that. I've literally latched onto this story to help define my greatness, right? To prop up my ego. And then I throw in this idea that my dad was completely unsupportive to me going to college, that he fought against it. He wouldn't even sign my paperwork. Well, don't go. And I've demonized that man for 20 years for not supporting me, for not quote unquote loving me enough to support me to go to college. And we had this conversation over the weekend, and I had this realization. I even remember what triggered it. I was like driving and I thought, and I was listening to a song. There's this song that, what's it called? The S Lazy H. It's like this song about this guy's dad dies and he loses the family ranch, right? And my sister, she's like, oh, whenever I hear this song, I think of dad. I think about the farm, because right now our familyhood farm is going onto the market. And so there's this legacy being sold to some extent, right? And so it's been on my mind a lot. And anyhow, I've been listening to that song a little bit, and I thought, wait a second, did my dad not want me to go to college because he didn't love me? Or did he not want me to go to college because he wanted to pass that on to me? Because he did say that, Kip, you don't need to go to college. Why don't you stay here on the farm? Help me work the farm. You can go to a local trade school and still stay here. And I thought, my perception of that whole thing was, damn you bastard, you don't give a shit. You know what I mean? You don't care about my dreams. As an older man now, I'm like, oh shit. He probably just was Hail Marying like, this is my last boy at home. This is my last kid. I have this legacy. And he was probably trying everything that he had available to him to keep me around.
Yeah.
Man, I should have been flattered. But instead I demonized him. And I've held on to that box and that story to justify all kinds of stuff for like 20 years. We have our sob stories. Maybe sit down and just think through what they are and see how unrealistic and how much of them are just perception and not truth.
Thank you for sharing that, Kip, because that was powerful when you shared it with me, is context, right? Context. Think about how often people have misunderstood you, right?
Never.
Like you've done something or said something and people completely misconstrue it, or they take it out of context, or they blow it out of proportion. Well, you do that too. I do that too.
Yeah.
So somebody says something or does something and we interpret it away, just like you did with your father, and it had nothing to do with that potentially. And so we're all just making up stories. So if we're going to make up a story, why don't we make up a story that actually serves us rather than hinders us? Because neither are probably true. The one you make up or the one that you bought into. Neither of them are probably entirely true, but it's just context. It could be 1,000 different things and you have no idea what it is because you're not a mind reader and we're all not as smart as we think we are.
Yeah. And usually the more beneficial perspective that you can have, it's interesting how that one usually has empathy and less judgment towards others.
Yeah.
Ironic how that is.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Cool. What's next?
It serves you and them. Chad Perrin. Hey guys, curious how you would handle this. I have 2 boys. One is 4, one is 5. mom and dad are separated, and he has them on the weekends. I don't know if it's because they're having a difficulty with time and the separation, but they used to be much braver. They are now afraid to do things that they weren't afraid of before. Going down tall slides, going on swings, playing with other kids on the playground, going to the swimming pool. Like I said, they used to do these things with no problem. I tell them I believe in them, that they are brave and strong. I do these things in front of them so they can see me do them and show them how fun things are. Not sure if it's just a phase I need to wait out or if there's a better way to help them overcome their fears. Any advice is greatly appreciated.
So he's separated from his wife and they have kids that are 4 and 5 and he has them on
Yeah.
the weekends.
Might be related, may not be related, but the key thing is like all of a sudden they seem fearful to try things. And he's trying to,
Yeah.
looking for advice of how to overcome those fears.
I mean, that's the thing. It could be so many different things. It could be their
Yeah.
age that they're at. It could be less of your influence in their lives now. So that might change things. It could be a blow to their self-esteem that you and your wife aren't together and they're not seeing you and they're not seeing her as
Less
often.
confidence in themselves. Yeah.
Right. It could, I mean, that's the hard part is it could be so many different things. And really all we can do is control the controllables, which is how you show up. So I would, if I were in your situation, is I would continue to do what you're doing by showing them it can be fun, encouraging and fostering taking healthy risk and trying new things and putting themselves out there. And then also putting them in environments where they can do that. Because maybe that's the other thing. Their exposure to those types of environments has possibly changed. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if it's changed, now they're not getting as much practice doing that. So there's like so many different things. So keep doing what you're doing, I would say. And I would also communicate with your wife or your ex-wife and express to her, maybe you already have, express to her what you're expressing to us because maybe she notices it too and maybe she's wondering the same thing. Think about context. Like how many guys
Yeah.
would immediately rush and jump to the conclusion that she's poisoning them against me and she's keeping them sheltered in the house to use them as an emotional crutch, like all these things that we could potentially say.
Yeah.
Or maybe she has the same fears about your guys' children as you do. And is there an opportunity for you outside of your relationship to be able to work together in a meaningful capacity to serve what are still both of your children? And so there might be opportunities there. You can't really talk too much with the kids about what they're feeling. I mean, they're 4 and they're 5 years old. How much could they possibly
Yeah.
articulate? But I think you're doing a good job by acknowledging it. I think based on what you're saying, it sounds like you're doing a good job exposing them to environments and teaching them through example. The one thing you didn't say is how she feels about it. And maybe you know, and maybe you don't. But if you don't know how she feels about it, you probably ought to sit down with her and say, hey, look, hon, I mean, I know we're having our issues. I know whatever. But I'm actually really worried about the kids. Have you seen this? Is there something that you've
I
noticed?
noticed this.
And what can we do
Yeah.
in the wake of what we're experiencing together that we could do to help our children? That's
Yeah.
where I want to
And
start.
yeah. And if they're not getting that grit and that opportunity to kind of do hard things, maybe because it's limited time with you, it's like, okay, well, maybe we can get the wife or ex-wife on board to let's put them in jujitsu during the week when
Mm-hmm.
they're not with you, or they're playing soccer, or they're playing other sports during the week when they're with mom. So then that way they're getting that kind of that time to do difficult and hard things,
Yeah,
possibly.
and one thing you can do with that as well is let's say you have them on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, hypothetically. So you don't have them Monday through Thursday. Well, maybe Wednesday there's a jujitsu class and you guys could actually go together. So they're not with you per se,
Yeah.
but you guys go to class. It's classes every at six
But you're
o'clock,
driving
and
them, and mom's going to appreciate that, right?
either you're driving them,
Might be.
and she gets that night, or maybe you're not even driving them. Maybe you just meet them there, and you guys are there together for an hour and a half, and then mom picks them up, and like that's such a rough position to be in. But I think there's some creative solutions, especially if you guys are amicable. And if you're not amicable, that's something you should definitely work on.
Yeah. Work on
And
getting her on board and communicating and getting on the same page with her.
I'm hesitant to say get her on board because it makes it sound like she's not or wouldn't be. It's like combative from the get go. Like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
us think that she wouldn't be on board with that? I don't know your situation. So let's
Yeah.
not say get her on board. because she might already be on board. We don't know. But
Need to have the conversation. Yeah.
you need to have a conversation, and you you really need to honor her, like as the mother of your children. Like there's things that you can do where you can honor her, you can appreciate her, you can show her that she's valued, that there are things that you care about her still. Like there's things that you can do. It's hard, but
Yeah.
it's what needs to be
Okay.
done.
Colin Hornback, how do you go about building a group of men around you that goes deeper than surface level? I've been trying for months to build better relationships with men, as most of my relationships are an inch deep and a mile wide. I want a group of guys around me that want to improve, grow deeper together, learn together, engage in accountability. While some guys I've talked to express interest in this, when I've reached out over the last few months for weekly phone calls or daily texts, they just won't engage or even respond at all. I've tried to set my expectations and be proactive and consistent over 2 to 3 months of reaching out, but I'm getting nowhere. Should I be changing my approach, looking for a different group of guys that are willing to commit, or both? Thanks for all your feedback and thoughts.
I think both. You're gonna have it's like dating. You know, when you want to date a woman, you're gonna have to date a lot of women before you find the one who's like, oh, she's on the same wavelength as me. She's interested in the same things as me. She's wanting to go to the same place as me. We communicate and we fit well together. But you might have to see 100 women to do that, right? Or less or
Yeah.
more, just depending on your situation. But it's the same thing with this: is the guys in your circle. The other thing you have to consider is the guys in your circle you've built on a relationship that you currently have. So it might just be around beers and barbecue. And so now you're changing the terms of the relationship. Well, that they may not be on board. And if they're not, that's okay. It's fine. You can still have beers and barbecue with them, but don't expect them to go deeper. There's no expectation there that they
Yeah.
should, because they entered in the relationship with the expectation of beers, barbecue, and sports.
And let's be clear really quick. Like most guys that are just into beers and sports are superficial, and they go, hey, dude, hey, I want to have some more in-depth conversation so I can become a better man. You interested? Most people will go, oh yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then not really
But
do
not really.
anything with it.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure.
So you're going to get the lip service of like, oh yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah.
But keep going.
So I would start. Here's what I would do. I would go where those men already are, because then you're going to find those, they're already interested. You're over here trying to create this thing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But there might be other things that are going on in your area that's already happening. A great example of that is this legacy event we just did this last weekend. I don't know if you noticed, Kip, right as we wrapped up, there was guys, they were hanging out in the barn and they were all getting each other's numbers, right?
Yeah.
Because they already qualified themselves. We already know they're interested in this stuff because they're here.
Yeah.
Or
And
the
they
Iron
spent 3 days
Council.
getting to know each other, and they're like, oh
That's
yeah,
right.
this is a solid guy. Yeah, we're
Right.
on the same page.
Or the Iron Council. They joined the Iron Council not for beer and barbecue, but they joined because they wanted the framework to develop and grow and build. And guys in the Iron Council have become friends and brothers that do activities just outside of the Iron Council. It might be a business conference that you can attend. Might be some sort of other online community or community within your, maybe it's Rotary or Chamber of Commerce. Like those are generally people who want to go above and beyond. They're entrepreneurs. They want to give back to the community. So just go insert yourself into the conversations that are already happening. That's an easier way to do it than creating your own thing. At church, that's another way. If there's a men's group at church, join the men's group. Get involved. Go to Bible study on Tuesday night. When they do a charity drive or some sort of service oriented activity on Saturday, go to that thing. Insert yourself in that environment. Those guys are obviously interested in giving back to the community, uh, serving the Lord. And if that's you, then that's a great place to go do that. Just go where those guys are. You'll find them.
And if you have existing relationships, there might be some context missing, right? If you, Ryan, you came to me 20 years ago and said, hey, Kip, I want to have a deeper relationship. I want to learn together and encourage each other, engage in accountability. Are you interested? I'd be like, yeah, sure. But what you're thinking right now and what I was thinking 20 years ago, they're not even on the same page. So if you have some existing relationships, you don't know what you don't know. So one strategy that I've used in the past for people that I actually like genuinely care about, that I consider friends, but we're not in this space, right? I'll go grab As a Man Thinketh. I'll go grab Sovereignty. I'll go grab other books and I'll say, hey, got you this book. I'll write in the cover, hey, really thought this book would be valuable to you. Give it to them and say, hey, when you're done reading, let's talk. If they never want to talk after they read the book, then it's, I use that as kind of like, oh, okay, this is not their game, right? But if As a Man Thinker resonates with them, and like, that was eye-opening, that was awesome, and you talk about it, it's like, okay, now we can create some momentum within a relationship I already had with someone and see if they're interested in going deeper.
Yeah. Well said.
John Silver, what, if any, resources do you suggest for talking to a son about sex? I know it can be awkward, and I usually just go with a direct approach, but want to set the stage for some open communication after the talk.
I don't know if there's any resources. I mean, I'm sure you could jump online and all that. You could go to the farm. That's a good resource. If you've ever, I mean, my kids know about how babies
at
were
first
born
I was
from
like,
the goats.
Yeah, that's funny. At first, you're like the farm. I was like, "Oh, is that like a sex ed retreat thing?" Oh, but it took
No,
me a
the
second.
farm.
Yeah, gotcha.
Like
Yeah,
we had a bunch of goats when my oldest kids were younger, and they saw those goats being delivered, cows being delivered. Like, remember how that happened? Yeah. Well, that's how it happens for us too. So it's like
yeah,
that's actually pretty good context. Yeah, I don't know about resources. I would just talk to them. Just talk to him and then ask him questions, and don't make it weird. If you make it weird, then he's going to make it weird.
yeah.
Just,
If it's awkward to you, it's going to be awkward to him. Yeah,
and also, guys, if you're not to the point where you're having this conversation yet, then have other conversations so they feel comfortable having conversations around you. So that when you need to have something a little bit more serious, like the birds and the bees, then it's easier. And it shouldn't just be a talk, by the way. People say the talk, the sex talk, we're birds and bees. No, it's not a talk. It's you're talking to them about something they're going to experience. So if they see an attractive girl, for example, well, there's an opportunity for some conversation about it. Hey, I noticed that you were, looking at that girl or that woman. Was she pretty? Yeah. Yeah, she was. I acknowledge that too. As your father, like, she was very attractive. And that's natural.
yeah,
And you can talk about why men are attracted to women. You don't have to get into sex. You just talk about why men are attracted to women, right? Like,
yeah.
there's all sorts of little opportunities where you can have these conversations, and it isn't the birds and the bees. I mean, eventually you'll need to get to that point. My 6-year-old asked the other day about, where babies come from. So we sat down and talked a little bit about it, but he's 6. Like, I don't need to give him an anatomy lesson. Like, just talk a little bit about it. But if we make it awkward, then it's going to be awkward. And I just think another part of the problem with this question, and I appreciate you asking the question, but the fact that we're so concerned about it is actually concerning to me. Like,
Yeah.
why is this so hard? Like, why is it so uncomfortable? Why is it so awkward? It should not be. And if you're having other conversations, this isn't even a question that I don't think even needs to
It
be
shouldn't
asked.
be a thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I learned with my older kids not to tease them too. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
that was like my natural tendency is like, oh, you like a girl. Like I'd
We don't do
tease them like
that.
a moron. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't do that now. Now like with my daughters is like, oh, I really like this boy. I'm like, oh, that's great.
Tell
Like,
me
what
about
do you
him.
like about him? And,
Right.
and I try to connect. So she'll tell me now, like now she will tell me that she likes a boy and why she likes about him. But if I teased her from the
No
get-go,
way.
no way she's going to be telling me about this boy that she thinks is cute, or
Yep.
whatever. So
That's a rule
try
that we
not to
have in the
tease
house
them
too.
about girls and
We
boys.
don't
Yeah.
tease about their crushes, and we don't let them tease each other about it.
Yeah.
And if one
Because
of our
it's
kids
serious
says,
for
I
them.
like this girl or I like this boy, it's like the same thing. It's like, oh, awesome. What do you like?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a good thing. Yeah.
that's what we want. We want to encourage that behavior.
Yeah.
We want them to like members of the opposite sex. We want them to have be attracted to girls and boys. Like, we want that. So
Yeah.
foster it. But yeah, I don't think any resources. I think just talk with them to the level that you talk with them. Practice talking with your kids. That's one thing you can do. And not just the birds and the bees, but like other things. How was football? What was hard about it? What did you enjoy about it? Do you like your coach? What do you like about him? What don't you like about him? Like ask open-ended questions with your kids so that when you have to have some of these more serious conversations, it just flows and it just goes. I would say asking questions is going to be a big deal as opposed to lecturing on these types of things. And
Totally.
you might say, well, what do you know about it? Like, what do you know about sex? Not what do you know about, like, no, hey, what do you know about sex? What do you know about where babies come from or how they're made? Ask them. You can figure out the context first, and then you can fill in blanks as needed.
Yeah. And some, like my oldest son was so off target. Like I remember I asked him once and I was like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, let's talk through this, right? Because yeah, no idea,
Right.
so to
Right.
your point, ask the questions is
Yeah.
really valuable. So, all right.
Cool. What's
Sam
next?
Broadway, have you considered expanding Order of Man into any other areas, such as the Order of Man shooting ranges or Order of Man jiu-jitsu academies or hunting classes and etc., or anything else along those lines?
No.
Oh, I have. I totally thought like, dude, we should have like a Order of Man jiu-jitsu, superior jiu-jitsu.
I just figure there's so many qualified places for jujitsu or shooting or cooking or camping
No,
or
no.
hunting. So it's
It's
like, go.
different.
And the other thing is, so it's like let them do it, and then we can direct them wherever they need to. I don't know. I've never really thought about that. Maybe I should think more about
Yeah.
that. But no, I never really thought about that.
Fun idea, nonetheless.
It
All right.
is for sure.
All right. Jeremiah Grinrod, recent position change at work. I am working with someone who has been told when I will be moved to another position as soon as I am up to speed. It was clearly communicated to me that this individual was not aware that they were going to be resigned, and I was asking to keep this to myself. I asked my leader to communicate this immediately to the individual so I could remain in integrity while working with them. Any advice on how to navigate this situation? I don't believe this has been communicated yet, but my leader agreed with me and committed to doing it soon.
Just do your work.
Yeah. Well, and I think you addressed it, right? Like, this is awkward. I'm like getting up to speed with this person and this person's on their way out. And you're like, hey, chain of command a little bit, like, hey, you need to let them know.
Yeah, I
And if
think you
they're
did
committed
good
to
there.
communicating that, then yeah, I think that's
But
right.
if you're not out of integrity for doing your job and being and respecting your leader's wishes by not communicating that, like, right? Like you should, that's not your job to tell them. And it doesn't, I don't think it puts you out of integrity for working with that individual and not telling them they're about to lose their job. That's not your business.
Yeah.
So just do
And
your
there,
work. Go ahead.
what the, I there might be some assumptions, Jeremiah, that you might be making around the circumstance, right? It's like, oh, well, I'm going to come in and they're getting fired and that's messed up. Well, hold on. Do you know what else is going on from the leader's perspective? Why they're exiting that or offboarding that individual? Do you know if they're getting transferred? Like, there's context from your boss's perspective that you may not be aware of.
Yeah. Oh,
And
for sure.
and so don't make assumptions. Go ask if you want to get informed, but don't make assumptions and make it like an awkward transition because you're making assumptions about what this means. Sorry, I interrupted you. So
I don't have anything. I would just say just keep doing your work. I mean, obviously your bosses and your leaders acknowledge the work that you're doing. So just keep doing your work and keep serving this individual. Keep doing what you can do, keep doing your work, and when the time is right, those guys will let them know and you'll be able to move in that position. But I don't think you're doing anything out of integrity by not in, if somebody's out of integrity, and I'm not saying they are, but if somebody is, it's your leaders, not you. And I
yeah,
don't even know that they are. Like there's timing and there's things that you don't know about, like you said, Kip. But yeah, just keep doing your work. It's okay. Just keep doing your work.
yeah.
Get your training you need, and when the situation's right, that transition will happen.
Juan Arroyo, I am a sole provider for a household and I take care of the finances. I have a 2-year-old son, another one on the way. How do I balance being a present father, fiance, and working while also trying to take care of myself in order to take better of my family? I'm new to the Iron Council. Thank you,
Nice.
gentlemen.
So work-life balance here is what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
And we've hit on this a lot. And so you're going to hear about
Yeah.
this a lot. Really, the
And
biggest
and
thing that you can do is
and Juan,
focus
you're going to
on
get better at this, right? In the
totally
IC. Yeah.
focus on the four quadrants. So there's calibration, that's getting right with yourself, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. There's connection, that's the relationships you have with other people. There's condition, that's your physical fitness. And then there's contribution, becoming a man of value. So those are the four quadrants. So the best thing I can tell you to do right now is to do your battle plan. You're new to the Iron Council, do your battle plan and create your objectives for your four quadrants and your tactics. And that's how you find balance, because now you have a plan. Now you're doing something. See, most guys will just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And we don't, and even if we have some level of success, we don't know how to replicate it because we just threw spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
So the first thing you need to do, it would be like on a football team, and you get all the guys together, right? You get 11 players together, and you're like, hey, go try to score a touchdown. You guys, you 11 guys, go try to score. And so they concoct some sort of weird play or something, and it works or it doesn't. And then they come back and they're like, okay, try to do it again. Well, what are the odds that they're going to be able to replicate that to the
Yeah.
team?
We have no idea what happened, right?
Right. Right. So what do? Well, you get a playbook out and you're like, let's draft 10 plays. Here's the 10 plays. Dot, 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 dot. And let's run them. And play A works, play B works, play C. That one didn't work. Play D. That one worked on that one time when we did this one thing in this one situation. Okay. Play E, play F. Like, here's our 10 plays. And you're going to pull out three that didn't work. You're going to really bump up three that did. You're going to change a few that worked kind of to see if you can get them even better. That's what the battle plan is. So you're going to do this, and then you're going to look at it on 30 days and 60 days and 90 days at the end of it. And you're going to say, okay, well, what worked? Well, I was really present for my family, but my business suffered. And then you change. And the next quarter, you're like, oh, my business did really well, but my family suffered. And then you change. And so gradually you start tweaking and refining and honing this playbook so that it creates the maximum result that you want. But go back in the meantime, go back and listen. All of you guys should, if you have a question about work-life balance. Podcast I did, and I don't know how long ago it was, but the podcast is balance is a verb. Balance is a verb. It's
Not too long ago, like the
it's not
last
that
6
long ago.
months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not some final destination. It's not a noun. It's like you achieve balance. No,
Constant.
it's balancing. You're constantly doing it. So go back and listen to balance as a verb because we talk about that at length.
Yeah. And the only thing I'd add is have some discipline around the plan, right? So if your tactic at the moment is to lift weights. And that's it. Like, literally be fully present. We talked about this in the Iron Council, I think last month, about the power of presence. If it's spending family time, spend family time. Put the damn phone around or down, and be present with your family. Like,
Yeah.
be amazing at whatever it is that you're currently doing. And you're going to reap the rewards of being all in the moment and being fully present.
Yeah, I just wrote down here boundaries, right? Boundaries for work-life balance. Putting the phone away, that's a boundary. So there's plenty of them that you can have. Let's take one more, Kip.
All right. It's perfect because we only have one more. Perfect. Doug Swanson, thinking of your legacy event this past weekend, I'm reminded of John Eldridge's book, Fathered by God, where he accurately describes the different stages of masculinity and how masculinity should be developed and mature with time. Eldridge says, boyhood above all else is a time of being the beloved son, the apple of your father's eye, a time of affirmation. For though I maintain my premise laid out in Wild at Heart, that every man shares the same core question, which is, do I have what it takes? Before and beneath that question, in a man's search for validation, lies a deeper need to know that he is prized, delighted in, and that he is a beloved son. How does this quote from John relate to what you offered those who attended the legacy event this past weekend?
I didn't offer those boys anything. I mean, yeah, we have the facility, we have the place, we have the structure, but I didn't consider it my job to offer that to them because that's not a gift that I have or possess that I should be giving to them. That's their father's gift, not mine. So what we do is we facilitate those opportunities for fathers to do that for their sons by taking them to an event like this. They wouldn't have invested in that event if they didn't care about their son and show them they were appreciated and honored. By having activities that were meant to forge tighter bonds and connections with them, by having talks around a fire to have them express how much they cared about their son or how much their sons cared about their fathers. Like all we do is facilitate. Like I want to be really, really clear is like, that's not a gift I can give. I don't possess that, but we just want to make sure, even with what we do with Order of Man, like we don't make men better. We facilitate opportunities and environments and cultures where they can improve themselves and work together to improve each other.
So they're self-directed in that growth. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So yeah, what did we give? We gave the space, we gave the margin, we gave the structure, we gave the activities, we gave the venue, and even some prompts and some questions, and the fathers ran with it. So I think it's really important. And going to an event like that, whether it's ours or somebody else's, is a great way to show your son how much you honor and respect them. One father came up and said, my son was fighting tooth and nail not to come to this all the way up until we pulled into your parking lot out in your field. And I asked him at the end of the event, would he, not me, this father said, I asked my son at the end, would he like to come back? He says, absolutely, I'd like to come back. So it's cool. It's really cool to see. And we're just facilitating. That's all we're doing. Yeah. Facilitating those opportunities.
Love it.
All right.
It was a great event.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
Walt said it best. He said they created it. The boys created it. The men created it, not us.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Once again, orderofman.com/Iron Council. That's going to be open for another week and closed until towards the end of the year.
Right.
So now's the time. If you guys wanted to execute on that fourth quarter, instead of being like everyone else and throwing your ambitions to the wind and doing nothing until the new year starts, and you want to get on the court now, orderofman.com/Iron Council. And of course, you can follow Mr. Michler on the social media on Twitter and Instagram at Ryan Michler. And of course, your swag at the Order of Man store. That's store.orderofman.com.
One last thing. Yesterday, the new book, The Masculinity Manifesto, came out. So if you haven't picked up your pre-order copy, you can pick it up and get it now. So wherever books are sold, Amazon's probably best. It's called The Masculinity Manifesto. So please get that and then leave a review on Amazon once you get it and read it. That goes a really, really long way in making sure that people see it, that you're enjoying it. Hopefully that's the goal, and that other men get that book because it's much needed. So The Masculinity Manifesto is available.
Excellent.
All right, guys, we appreciate you. Great questions today. Those questions all came from members of the Iron Council, so they're digging in, and we'll be back on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.